the river there. All right, everybody all good?
Yep.
Okay, thanks for coming out. So I'm here with Mayoral Edridge, the Wellington City Missioner from the Wellington City Mission. Also my colleagues, Laurie Foon and Nuruddin Abdulrahman, the ward councillors for the Southern Ward. So we're here just to announce that today we have set up a Mayoral Relief Fund. The council has contributed $100,000 to that fund. It'll be administered by the Wellington City Mission. We're calling for donations from Wellingtonians who can manage it. A lot of people have been affected by these floods this week, and some people have pretty much lost everything, and so we're looking for whatever assistance we can provide those people. The contributions from the public could be cash or could be things like furniture and stuff for people to re-establish themselves. So day 4 of the response, we're now into helping those people who really need to kind of restart or restore themselves and kind of start again after what's been a pretty traumatic week. So Murray, any comments you want to make?
Thank you, Andrew, and I do appreciate the council's generosity in starting this fund. We've been here before because we had a similar fund at the Loafers Lodge fire, which was just nearly 3 years ago. We've been working with the City Council team for the last 4 days. We've seen and heard some horrific stories about people's lives. For most of us, we're just getting on with our lives, but for the people who've been impacted by this, we're talking about a long recovery period. So my encouragement to Wellingtonians is, as you have done time and time again, show your generosity, look after your neighbours, contribute to this fund and enable us to do the work we need to do in the days ahead. The problem with the weather becoming better, and we're delighted that it is that all of us start to move on with our lives, and yet we've got people who are in really significant trauma and loss. Many of them will be uninsured or underinsured, and they just need the support of the community around them. So the opportunity to have this fund, last time the public contributed extraordinarily well to the plight of those who got evacuated from Loafers Lodge, and we hope they'll get behind this fund, support those who this week, and we've just been talking, who started the week unknowingly that Monday morning their lives were going to change. And we can show them that Wellington is a generous, is a compassionate community, and we'd encourage people to support the fund in any way they can. Thank you.
Questions?
Oh, Murray, how many more people have you still got staying with you at the Whakamaru who are out of home still?
For the first 2 nights, we also, in addition to those that were displaced, we hosted some of the rough sleeping community of Wellington, and we had about 35 people with us for Monday and Tuesday night. We're not continuing on with that because the weather's got a bit better now. We still have some people staying with us in the building, and we are finding permanent placements for people as we work with them. We're going to take over the day-to-day response in partnership with council, but a lot of people, as I say, have a lot of things that need to be attended to, and we'll be working with them over the weeks to come. Weeks and maybe months, but let's hope not for too long.
Have you got an idea of how much you might raise? 100,000. I know, I can't remember what the Loafers Fund ended up at.
The Loafers Lodge Fund ended up at about 430,000, but that was 3 years ago, so we can do better than that.
And I think there are a lot of households that are affected, and as I said, a lot of people have lost pretty much everything. So we just ask, and I know it's a difficult time, it's a challenging time for people with all sorts of cost pressures on them, but if Wellingtonians are able to contribute, it'll make a huge difference to people who are now in the process of having to pulling their lives back together and deal with the traumatic experiences they've had this week.
Do you have an estimate of how much this event has cost the city or cost homes overall?
We don't, and look, insurance assessors are still out and about assessing damage. We've just been talking to some householders just down the road here. They're still waiting for their insurance assessors to get here, and it might be tomorrow before they do. So it might be some weeks before we know the true cost of these floods.
But would you say it's in the millions?
Oh, absolutely, it'll be the tens of millions, if not the hundreds of millions. Yeah.
How about the cost to the council in terms of infrastructure damage? That looks quite extensive in terms of lights broken.
Yeah, look, again, that's still being assessed, and we know that the roads and footpaths have been ripped up, and city infrastructure has been affected as well. A lot of that's still being assessed. The priority has been helping people in their households, particularly those households that have been really badly flooded and everything's had to be carried out. So the priority has been the people first, and we'll get on with the city infrastructure as a secondary thing.
Do you have any sort of indication of how many people and how many households have been displaced?
Look, it's hard to say. Whakamaru and the Wellington City Mission have been hosting some people, but I know for a fact a lot of people have spoken to me, said they self-evacuated, they've been staying with friends and family. Those things aren't recorded, so it's really hard to calculate. When you look at the houses that have been damaged, in some cases I suspect irreparably, there are dozens of houses affected, so this will be affecting a lot of people.
Just perhaps anecdotally, that you guys have been out there dealing with people. What sort of the level of support that's needed from the community?
I think my sense is that a lot of people have got through the first few days, and now it's the tough job of dealing with cleaning up, dealing with possessions in some places, valued possessions, making sure people are safe, but actually making sure they have a sense of security for the weeks and months ahead, getting new accommodation and stuff. That's really challenging. I think the emotions are starting to come to the surface now, and so that's why support now will make a huge difference, make a huge emotional and psychological difference, and we've just got to make sure that people have access to the support they need to get through what will be some very challenging days and weeks ahead.
You mentioned some 17 families that the council's working with on finding new accommodation yesterday. Was that sort of stories? Is there any update there?
Yeah, I think as Murray said, look, there's still work going on in finding accommodation for people. I'm not closely in touch with just what the progress has been made, but Murray, you might.
We've got nearly 40 families that we're actively case managing at the moment, which means we've got them in temporary accommodation. We're looking, to get some permanent solutions there. But we're having people present. They didn't all turn up on Monday morning. Some of them came on Tuesday and again yesterday. So people are getting on with their lives and coping with what they have until they run out of the capacity to do that. So we are going to see an ongoing trickle of people coming to us, I suspect. And I think, we're dealing with practical things at the moment, but for many people, the trauma of what's happened just all of a sudden hasn't really hit, and we will see that in the days and weeks to come.
So is that 40, you say 40 families, would that mean 40 houses or 40 homes that are unlivable?
Absolutely, yeah. But I suspect the number will be more than that. We're gradually getting into a full awareness of what's happened here and what the response needs to be.
And how does the fund work in terms of where the money goes? Does that go to the city mission for you to buy supplies and food and shelter?
Essentially, yes. So we case manage all the people that are now coming out of the tragedy, and we will use that fund and we'll allocate it. We'll report on it weekly. So we, as we did with the Loafers Lodge, we tell you each week how much has come in and what's gone out and how we've spent it. So that there's real transparency around that. But it gives us the flexibility to be able to respond to needs immediately. We don't have to wait for someone to approve something, don't have to wait for funds to be made available. We can actually use that. The funds will all go directly to the needs of the people who present.
Murray, do I read you're open as well for Wellingtonians to give physical items?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So preferably between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And unfortunately we can't go and pick it up, so people have to deliver to us. But if you've got good quality furniture, household appliances that are serviceable and working well, we are going to have to replace an awful lot of infrastructure for people. As I say, many will be uninsured or underinsured, and their ability to buy new product won't be available. So if people could bring it down, we've got a warehouse available, we can store it in, and we'll distribute that like the money we get through the fund to people that need it most.
Just from here, I'm not sure how you can say that the update the council put out this morning, and one of the areas of concern is the tip. Yeah. It's still getting it off the engineer's report. It doesn't sound particularly promising.
Well, the tip itself was flooded. It suffered the consequences of it too. I'm just awaiting advice on that. I understand that things are looking okay, so we will have an announcement to make in the next sort of day or so about access to the tip, and also about what the council is going to be doing to assist people to remove flood damaged goods from homes and properties.
What about the risk of landslides and slips? I've just been in Kingston where there was a massive slip, and there's houses that are up on that hill there that look quite precarious. Do you have any understanding of, are there areas that are quite precarious right now due to what's happened?
Well, one of the reasons why the state of emergency is still in place is with a big event like we've had, when the land gets waterlogged, often slips can take several days to materialise, and we want to be able to call up the resources that we need to clear slips and help out. So there is still a risk of slips in some places. They could appear anywhere, but the council is alert to that and prepared for it.
Do you have any information on like the scale of this event? You know, is this like a 1 in 100 year kind of event? Have you been provided any of that information from forecasting or climate?
I haven't seen any kind of comparative information or anything like that. I mean, everybody has been very much focused on the immediate response, the immediate needs. We'll get to reviewing things in a few weeks' time, and no doubt we'll be able to compare data from previous events and kind of see how it compares.
Will you be seeking any central government support for this event?
We haven't so far. We're in touch with central government, and certainly NEMA has been very helpful, very supportive, but at the moment we're doing what we can to support Wellingtonians in a way that I think Wellingtonians would understand and will want to contribute to. We'll deal with the central government supported stuff further down the track.
How long do you think it will take for the communities to bounce back from this?
Oh, look, some properties are very severely damaged. You know, people are moving houses and doing those sorts of things. Even properties where there's just layers of silt, I mean, it's going to take a while for that to be cleared out, properties to be restored. So this is something that will go for weeks and months in terms of a long-term recovery.
Not your call, but do you know how long the state of emergency will last? Because am I right in thinking it's just Wellington City now?
Yeah, and I think Wairarapa in terms of the regional state of emergency. Look, it's being reviewed daily, and we just have that residual risk of slips. So we just want to make sure that we've got the means to call up the resources we need to respond to those as effectively as possible. I think people should understand that there's no current state of emergency. There's absolutely no restriction on movements. People should, to the best extent they can, get back to their ordinary lives, their ordinary routines. We want to make sure that for Saturday too, that there are no impediments to any of the Anzac observances. So people should plan as they would ordinarily do for that very special day.
But that state of emergency, it seems to be quite primarily driven by the fear of more slips. If there's big slips, you need those extra powers to have it.
Yeah, that's pretty much the remaining risk that we just need to make sure that we can respond effectively to if something happens.
Beyond the tip, are you aware of any other council facilities that have been damaged?
Beyond that, no, I'm not. I don't. I mean, apart from footpaths and roads and stuff where paving is lifted. Yeah. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. Cheers, mate. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. Cheers. Get things underway.
Ashamed of sexuality, and we find it hard to talk about these things. But this generation, they are marinating in sex and sexuality and pornography and all of these things, and we can leave them in the marinade, but then we have to be prepared to deal with what comes out, and I think that's the problem, and that's the bit that's scary. We have to actually front foot this and say to them, tell us what is going on, tell us